Viste did not fully release the so-called Cabral files.
Congress has ratified the BICAM report on the 2026 national budget, but some lawmakers have reservations.
The Health Department reports to 125 firecracker-related injuries nationwide ahead of the New Year celebrations.
The cast of Manila's Finest continues their mall tour on the 5th day of the Metro Manila Film Festival.
First in the news, the Office of the Ombudsman says Congressman Leandro Leviste did not release the so-called Cabral files in its entirety. Here's the report.
Assistant Ombudsman Mico Clavano has refuted Batangas 1st District Representative Leandro Leviste's claim that a complete set of files belonging to former DPWH Undersecretary Maria Catalina Cabral had been submitted to the Office of the Ombudsman. Clavano said Leviste failed to provide the full documents despite being asked to do so.
Congressman Leviste presented only limited portions of the list, responsive, in fairness, to specific inquiries. But he did not present the entire set of files he claimed to possess, even when asked to do so. This will differ from the congressman's public statements suggesting that the full Cabral files had already been shown to or reviewed by the Office of the Ombudsman.
The Assistant Ombudsman also disclosed that multiple individuals have approached their office claiming to possess copies of the supposed Cabral files. According to Clavano, soft copies of documents held by third parties may compromise their credibility as evidence.
Soft copies of documents held by third parties, especially those in the format of Word or Excel, inherently lose evidentiary credibility as they are susceptible to alteration, incomplete context, or manipulation. As such, these materials cannot, by themselves, be treated as conclusive evidence. The best and most reliable source of documents are actually the agencies and individuals who had custody, who had control, and even authorship of the computers, the storage devices, and the files themselves. Evidence that is derived directly from these sources will naturally carry far greater evidentiary value than copies that are circulating outside official custody.
Leviste quickly denied Clavano's claim in a Facebook post. The neophyte lawmaker said Clavano was not part of the team he met with on November 26. Leviste also maintained that the documents in his possessions are authentic and said he is open to having them publicly compared with other copies. Aside from Leviste, Baguio City Mayor Benjamin Magalong is also said to have a copy of the Cabral files, which he obtained when he is still part of the Independent Commission for Infrastructure. However, Magalong said his copy does not contain handwritten notes or allocables linked to cabinet members. Magalong also recalled his questioning of Cabral during an ICI hearing over the sharp increase in infrastructure allocations in Oriental and Occidental Mindoro.
Napaubo siya, tapos bigla siyang humingi ng tubig, sabi niya. Habang uminom siya ng tubig, nanginig na siya. Familiar siya dun sa file. Familiar siya sa file. At nung tinatanong namin siya, kami ni Secretary Baves kasi ang agresibo dun eh. Tinatanong namin siya, why did this happen? Sabi namin, can you explain to us, paano mo na-increase to? And same with the other congressman. Sabi niya, bigla, sir, utos ni Secretary. Yun na lang ang palusot niya.
Meanwhile, the Office of the Ombudsman is preparing to conduct a digital forensic examination of the Central Processing Unit, or CPU, of Cabral's computer.
Now joining us is a Palace Press Officer, Undersecretary Claire Castro. Good morning and welcome to the program. Thanks again for joining us, Yusek.
Yes, good morning, Angela. Good morning, Diego.
Yusek, Merry Christmas ulit. Thank you for joining us finally.
Okay.
At saka lang masabi ko lang tatlong Castro na sa airing
Oo
ngayon.
nga, no? That's true. Well, Yusek, of course, napakarami pong tanong, no, sa likod po nitong Cabral files na pinag-uusapan natin, one of which is papaano po ito na-obtain ni Congressman Leandro Leviste, and you said there should be an investigation on how he obtained these files. On his part, sabi niya, it was given to him, walang force, hindi daw niya pinilit, etc. But there are claims also na hindi, no, na ito ay inagaw niya, etc. etc. How important it is na malaman po natin paano na-obtain itong files para po sa investigation?
Na unang-una kasi, syempre, kapag kukuha ka ng dokumento, dapat voluntaryo yung pagbibigay sa'yo. So, kung hindi voluntaryo yung pagbibigay sa'yo, may question dun. So, kasi kung pinuwersa mo to, ano pa yung kaya mong gawin kung napwersa mo ito? So, maaari ka pang gumawa ng mas illegal na bagay dahil nagawa mo na mang-agaw ng dokumento. But hindi ko hinuhusgahan po gusto ko na po linawin kasi baka magkaroon naman ng ibang interpretasyon. Wala po tayong ibinibintang on my part, wala po akong ibinibintang Congressman Leviste dahil wala akong personal knowledge on that.
Right.
So ang kailangan na lang po diyan ay talagang malaman, maimbestigahan kung paano nga ba niya nakuha yung files. And at the same time, mismong itong si Mayor Magalong, ang sabi niya, meron din siyang kopya.
Yeah.
So, tanong natin, paano niya nakuha? Binigay din ba sa kanya ni Yusek Cabral yun? Kasi at that time, DPWH
Yes.
Secretary na po, si Sec Vince.
Right.
Okay, so paano niya nakuha to? Bakit walang handwritten notes? Ba't magkaiba ang sinasabing kopya na hawak ni Congressman Leviste at yung di umanong kopya naman din ni Mayor Magalong?
Right.
Oo nga, Yusek, but paano ngayon natin i-determine kung ano talaga ang nilalaman ng files ni Cabral, the late Yusek Cabral? Kasi sabi ng ombudsman po na si Leviste, Congressman Leviste po, ay hindi po nagbibigay ng complete files sa kanila. Ang sabi naman ni Congressman Leviste, hindi daw totoo yun.
Kasi ganito yan. Tayo naman, alam naman natin kung paano ba magpapa-receive ng copies. So, tanong na lang natin muna kay Congressman Leviste, how did you give the copy? That copy that you are in possession of. Paano mo binigyan ng copy ang ombudsman? Meron bang rubber stamp impression receive? Kasi kung mapapakita naman niya, the whole file, halimbawa po, ay naibigay niya at may rubber stamp impression ng receive by ombudsman, di hindi makakaila
Right.
na natanggap. Pero kung wala, at bibiglang po, ay madali po itong ma-deny. Kasi kung talaga namang hindi na ipakita ng buo, at wala rin naman pong proof ang si Congressman Leviste na napatanggap niya, di ba? Dapat yan merong kumbaga may
Receiving copy,
matitrace may paper trail yan
Yes,
dapat. So wala.
Pero Yusek, nakita niyo lang po ba yung sinabit ni Congressman Leviste sa ombudsman, yung mga portions na request?
Ano po ulit?
Nakita niyo na po yung files na sinabit ni Congressman Leviste? Kasi may sinabit daw na portions pertaining lang to the investigation.
Hindi pa rin po ako nakakita. At according din kay Sec Vince, yung binabanggit na dokumento ni Congressman Leviste, hindi pa rin niya po nakikita. Kaya hindi rin niya ma-authenticate agad. With more reason ngayon, na wala na ang kopya ng mga dokumento po ni Yusek Cabral, nasa ombudsman na. With more reason na hindi na makakapag-authenticate si DPWH Secretary
Yun nga
Vince.
That's a big question also. How, with of course, former Yusek Cabral is gone right now, who will authenticate, diba? Paano yung authenticity ng file na ito? Given na po lahat may kopya na, tapos meron pang may soft copy na alam naman natin na pwede rin yun ma-edit, etc.
Yes, opo. Yun nga din po ang sinabi ni Assistant Ombudsman Clavano, na kung ito ay nasa form ng Microsoft, ng Excel, na madaling ma-edit, mukhang hindi nila bibigyan ito. Hindi ito magiging conclusive evidence. So, ang patitignan na lang po talaga dito kung ano po yung naibigay at naisumite ng DPWH na mga files, yun na lang po ang kanilang i-examine. So, kung wala doon, yung kopya po na pinapakita po ni Congressman Leviste, mukhang magiging questionable po yun.
Okay, kasama po dito sa mga allegations sa listahan na to ay cabinet level budget insertions, no? In fact, when I interviewed Congressman Leviste last week, if I'm not mistaken, isa po sa mga nasabi niya ay yung pangalan ni E.S. Bersamin, Amina Pangandaman, and when I talked to Congressman Antonio Tino naman, sinasabi niya na parang may pagsasala daw no sa bahagi ng palas pagdating sa investigasyon nga dito because involved yung mga former cabinet members. What do you have to say to that, Yusek?
Paano ang pagsasala? Na
Kasi hindi daw
inimbestigahan?
wala daw investigasyon on the side of sila E.S. Bersamin and sila Amina Pangandaman because isa po sila doon sa mga dinidiin ngayon po doon sa mga budget insertions.
Baka po nakakalimutan nila na ang Pangulo naman po, hindi naman po siya mismo nag-iimbestiga. Ang Malacanang po, hindi naman po yan na nag-iimbestiga. Kaya nga po gumawa ng ICI para may mag-imbestiga po. So, depende na po yan sa mga investigating bodies like, let's say, Ombudsman, DOJ, ICI. Kung nandiyan na po yung information about the alleged allocations ng mga CABSEX, edi let the investigating bodies do the job. So, ito naman po problema sa iba natin mga kababayan eh. Lahat na lang po ng pagkukulang ng iba o yung mga bagay na hindi pa ginagawa ng ibang ahensya, kay Pangulo lagi ipinupukol. So, yung pag-iimbestiga po yan, kaya nga po may ICI eh. Di po ba? So, kung meron pong complaints yung iba, at sinasabi pong merong allocations ang cabinet secretaries, at nakita nilang may anomalya, dapat may anomalya po, hindi lang po name dropping. Kung nakita nila may anomalya, di sila na po ang pumunta sa ICI at paimbestigahan po nila. Or kung meron na silang kompletong dokumento na magpapatunay na itong halimbawa po si E.S. Bersamin or si Secretary Mina Pangandaman, di umano may kinalaman o di dumiretso na po sila dapat sa ombudsman at magpahal na po sila ng kaso. So wag na po nilang igiit na dapat ang Pangulo pa magpa-imbestiga nito. Kaya nga po may investigating body. Dahil kung Pangulo pa po ang mag-iimbestiga nito, hindi na po siya makakapagtrabaho ng iba. So wag na po natin, ang problema sa kanila, basta maipasok lang po at sisihin ang Pangulo sa mga bagay-bagay na meron naman po mga ahensya na dapat gumagawa ng trabaho.
Oo nga, Yusek, isang pagsisisi po sa Pangulo ay puro dilis lang daw ang nadidiin ngayon at wala daw tilapia at lampas na daw ng Christmas. Ano po ang masasabi niyo doon, Yusek?
Dilis po ba ang Diskaya? Dilis po ba si Saldico na ngayon ay nagtatago? Hindi po yata dilis yun. So, ito muli, ang Pangulo, ang DPWH, at ang ICI po, ang ICI ay nagrekomenda na po ng mga kaso na siyang iimbestiga ng ombudsman. Ang DPWH, nagsampa diretso po sa ombudsman ng kaso. So, ang lahat pong ito po, Angela and Diego, ang daming naiinip. Tingin ko ito is just a propaganda against the president. 4 na buwan pa lang, ang dami na pong na-issue ng warrant of arrest. Marami na po na mga millions worth ng kickbacks na isole. Nakita natin mismo ang pera na naisole.
Right.
AMLAC nag-freeze ng assets. Ang BIR nagsampa ng mga kaso. Ang dami nagtatago, ang dami nakulong. Maraming hindi naging merry ang Christmas. Pero bakit ang mga taong negatibo lang ang nakikita sa Pangulo, hindi nakikita itong mga nangyari at naging accomplishments bago magpasko?
Yun nga po, kaya lang kasi Yusek, there was a promise nga po December 15 or bago magpasko, may mga makukulong pero yung mga nakukulong daw po, ayun nga po tulad ng banggit ni Diego, ay of course yes, there's Diskaya, may mga warrant of arrest against Zaldico, pero more on na mga low-level officials lang daw po, no? Of course, yung a lot of people are asking saan yung mga may mga malalaking pangalan, no, na nadadawit dito sa maanumalyang flood control projects based on the promise of the president. So, doon po sila kumukuha ng hugot.
Ang promise ng Pangulo ay sa kanya mga nabanggit na pangalan. Sa report, sana ma-recall nyo. Sa report ng Pangulo, marami siya sa nabanggit na pangalan na magiging hindi merry ang Christmas. Okay? So, ito lahat nagawa naman ng Pangulo sa 4 na buwan. Sabi nga natin, kung ikukumpara natin sa 6 na taon na nakaraang administrasyon, ni walang kickbacks, kahit may ghost projects na inamin ng year 2020, wala itong napakulong, walang kickbacks na naisole, 6 na taon, hindi sila nainip. 4 na buwan, naiinip na sila. And at the same time, ang nangako na may senador na makukulong ay si Ombudsman Boying. At yan naman po ay kanilang inaasikaso dahil kinokompleto ang ebidensya. Mahirap po kasi magpakulong tapos biglang mawawala dahil kulang ang ebidensya. So, still, ang Pangulo kailangan ayusin, kumpleto ang dokumento, pero dapat due process pa rin. Pero still, sabi nga natin, sa 6 na buwan, may nakulong na po. Meron pong nagtatago. May mga passport na na-cancel. So, abangan na lang po natin kung ano pa po ang maaaring gawin ng Ombudsman dahil sa parte po ng DPWH, nakapagsampa na po sila ng mga kaso. Even the CICI ay nakapag-recommenda na po ng kaso sa Ombudsman at sa DOJ.
Yusek, ang isang tumutulig sa Pangulo, of course, alam natin, si VP Sara, no? Yung matanong ko po, may nasabi rin daw kayo sa kanya na hindi maganda at may threat daw ng disbarment po sa inyo. Ano po mensahe niyo doon, Yusek?
Chucky daw. You said Chucky.
Ano ba hindi ko nasabing hindi maganda?
said
Sabi niyo
Chucky.
daw po, Chucky.
Pag
Wala ko
nagagalit.
sinabing Chucky.
Hindi, wala ba?
Wala ba?
Wala ba?
Picture lang.
Picture lang.
Hindi, kasi, okay, meron tong meron tong kung, di ba? Okay, the reason why nasabi natin yan, at the time na, nung tinanong siya na, mababati niyo ba ang Pangulo sa Pasko? So, sumimangot siya agad.
Yeah.
Sumimangot siya agad. And then sabi niya, bakit mababago ba yung ugali niya kung babatiin ko siya ng Pasko? So, dapat, tignan muna, nung nagsasabi, kung ako i-disband, tignan muna nila saan ang galing. Saan nagmula, kung ba't nasabi natin yon. At tignan din nila muna kung ano muna yung sinasabi ng VP na lawyer din
Yes.
against the president na mas malala. Diba? So, sa akin, sabi ko lang, pag galit, nagiging ganito yung itsura niya. Kahawig. Pag galit.
Oo.
Pero pag hindi galit,
Hindi naman.
hindi maganda. Ibig sabihin nun, huwag kang magiging magalit. Kasi otherwise, pag galit ka, lagi mo magiging kamukha yung ganyan. Laging
Nakakunot.
yung kilay
Yung kilay.
sa lubong.
Bakit naman kasi may ready po
Pero
kayong picture
interesting,
nun?
may sinabi si Yusek na mas malala ang sinasabi ni VP Sara na lawyer din. O nga, no? Yusek,
Sabi ko, di ba?
pwede ba ihiwalay yung personality ng VP sa pagka-abogado niya at man-disbar
Hindi.
din siya?
O di iwalay din yung personality ko as vlogger,
So,
as
pwede siya
Yusek, and as a lawyer.
So pwede siya man-disbar, Yusek?
Yung mga kataga na yon na may kilala siyang assassin at nagbanta sa buhay ng Pangulo, ng First Lady at ng dating Speaker of the House, yan ang mga grounds na pwede yung i-disbar ang isang lawyer. Oh.
Well,
Ikukumpara sa mga words na ginagamit, di ba?
Yeah.
Yung mga
Okay.
nagsasabi ba na ipapadisbar ako, naaral ba nila lahat ng sinabi ng Vice Presidente against the government?
but you're ready to face if
Against the
ever
president.
ipadisbar kayo. Ready to face the investigation if
Oo
ever.
naman. Freedom of expression, pinaglalaban.
Oo. Pero, Yusek, bago ka namin pakawalan, of course, we would like to ask regarding the budget. Yan po ay pinaka-importante para po sa ating bansa. Ay na-ratify na po ito ng both houses. Inaantay na lang po, of course, yung review ng Pangulo. Some would say na masyadong malaki at unconstitutional ang unprogrammed funds. Is there a possibility that the President would veto the unprogrammed funds?
Ayoko pangunahan ng Pangulo. Pero nire-review talaga siya. Simula nung maibigay ang kopya. So lahat ng team na yan, pinare-review, especially those na nadagdag sa NEP. So kung may i-veto ang Pangulo, mag-veto po siya.
So upon his reviewal, nakikita po ba ng Pangulo mas may tiwala siya dito sa magiging budget natin as compared to 2025?
Hindi ko masasabing may tiwala siya kasi hindi pa po tapos ang pagre-review nito. Pero ang sinisigurado po ng Pangulo, ang maliban sa legal and technical requirements na dapat sundin, lahat po na magiging ilalabas na 2026 budget, lahat po dito ay dapat naaayon sa prioridad na programa ng Pangulo at naaayon para sa ikabubuti ng bansa at ng taong bayan. Yun po yung sinisigurado ng Pangulo.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Kahit po naka-holiday mode po kayo, maraming salamat.
Advance Happy New Year po.
Of course.
Happy New Year!
Happy
Thank you,
New Year.
Angela. Thank you, Diego. At sa lahat na nanonood ng inyong programa. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you po. That was Palace Press Officer Undersecretary Claire Castro. Now, we'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. Good morning. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. Executive Secretary Ralph Recto says the Marcos administration kept inflation under control in 2025. Recto says inflation fell to 1.6% from January to November, down from 3.4% in 2024. He added that lower inflation helped preserve purchasing power and gave the central bank more room to adjust interest rates. Meanwhile, Recto is facing graft and plunder complaints over the 60 billion peso PhilHealth Fund transfer, which he has said he will fully address as investigations continue.
Joining us now is Attorney Vicente Hoyas, former president of the Integrated Bar of the Philippines. Attorney, thank you po for joining us.
Thank you very much also sa inyong dalawa.
Alright, Attorney, simulan po natin. Yung Supreme Court declared yung PhilHealth Fund transfer po na unconstitutional, no? From a legal standpoint po, how damaging is this po to, kay
Defense of
Secretary
Secretary Recto.
Ralph Recto?
Well, actually wala namang damage kay kay Finance Secretary Recto. Yung declaration ng nullity ng Supreme Court sapagkat sabi ng Supreme Court yung no less than 4 or 5 justices sinabi nila na wala namang criminal liability si Finance Secretary Recto.
Okay, pero yun nga po no kasi may nagsampa ng kaso sa kanya. Pero first and foremost po, ano po ba yung pinagbatayan ni then Finance Secretary Ralph Recto doon po sa ginawa nilang pag-transfer ng fund from PhilHealth to National Treasury to the unprogrammed funds? Unprogrammed appropriations.
Doon sa GAA, there is a special provision there authorizing the transfer ng PhilHealth Fund sa National Treasury. So in compliance with that provision, nag-issue ng circular si E.S. Recto na noon ay Sec pa ng Finance to transfer and implement the provisions of the special provisions of the GAA. Naging basis ng kanyang circular na later on, yung special provision nyo ng GAA was declared to be unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. Ngayon, ang sabi ng Supreme Court, yung 4 na justices, walang criminal liability si E.S. Recto because he acted in good faith.
Oo. So parang ano po ba to? Kung ikukumpara, parang ito po ba yung nangyari before during the Aquino administration?
Kay
Yung DAP?
Secretary?
Ay, ganyan nga, yun. Yung DAP. I mentioned that in one of my interviews. This is similar to DAP. Sapagkat yung DAP, ganyan din ang nangyari na para nagkaroon ng cross-border from one department to another, yung pondo nag-transfer. And the Supreme Court said that that particular law is unconstitutional, but the effects of the acts done by the officer in good faith is recognized by the Supreme Court. Kasi sabi ng Supreme Court, hindi na natin maaaring ibalik yun. Halimbawa, yung pinagawang karsada, ibig sabihin, huhukayin pa natin para ibalik. O yung mga hospital na ipinagawa, kailangan gibain pa natin para ibalik. So sabi ng Supreme Court, applying the doctrine of operative fact, the Supreme Court, we are going to do this in order to avoid chaos and to protect the interest of the officer who acted in good faith.
So kumbaga parang in the future, wag nang gawin.
Wag na gawin. Wag na gawin yung ganon. Pero siyempre, hindi mo naman masisisi tulad itong sitwasyon ni Senator ni E.S. Recto. Merong mandate sa GAA na ilipat yung pondo.
Yes.
Kung hindi naman niya ginawa yun, most likely he will be liable also.
Yeah.
So, Attorney...
Sabi nga ni Justice Raul Villanueva ng Supreme Court, kung hindi ginawa ni Finance Secretary Recto, mas baka grabe ang kanyang abutin sapagkat he may be charged for violating a provision of the law.
Okay. So, per attorney, moving forward po, after this ruling po, ano po mangyayari if a government agency or a department may savings po or may additional income generated from projects, it stays with the department po? Hindi na dapat ibalik?
Hindi, dapat i-order ng Supreme Court, ibalik.
Oo.
Ibabalik yun.
Oo, binalik. O, ibabalik yun. Actually, ang utos ng Supreme Court, tama po ba, attorney, is through the 2026 budget? Yung pagbalik.
Ibabalik yun. Sa
Oo.
national, ibabalik yun.
Oo. Pero yun nga po, no, syempre kami, hindi naman po kami mga lawyer, pero how do you determine good faith? Diba? Hindi po ba ito parang technical malversation? Oo.
Hindi, kasi ibig sabihin na ang sitwasyon natin ngayon ay dapat bang usigin si Finance Secretary Rector, now DES, simply because he transferred the fund pursuant to a provision of the GAA. So apparently he acted in good faith. And nobody can be liable if he acted in good faith under our system of government. More especially under our penal statutes.
Pero yun nga po, no, kasi kinuha nila, sabi daw po, there's an excess fund sa PhilHealth. Pero in the first place, ang usap-usapan din po nung pumutok itong balita na to, may totoo po bang may excess funds ang PhilHealth? Ang dami po nila mga backlog sa bayarin sa mga ospital, tapos expansion ng mga dapat health case rates, diba, etc.
Well, I suppose the congressman who passed the GAA must have been aware for them to say na mayroon po bang pondo ito? Mayroon pagkukunan ba ng pondo ito? Otherwise, the senators and the congressmen should not have passed the GAA and inserted that special provisions. Dapat kung mayroong pananagutan, yung Kongreso, sapagkat sila ang naglagay ng insertion na yun.
That's right.
Okay. Alright. And of course,
Otherwise, kung wala yung insertion na yun, hindi naman mag-i-implement si Finance Secretary Recto.
so paano po yun? Kumbaga, there are a lot of people, may group of people po na nagsampa ng kaso laban sa kanya, one of which is technical malversation. So if ever po, parang medyo malabo po ba yung kaso na yun, pertaining to what you have said na he acted on good faith, etc.?
Well, ako, baka maging bias kung ako'y magsasalita tungkol dyan. Although, hindi ko kilala hindi ko kilala personally si Finance Secretary Recto, now ES, and ni minsan hindi ko siya nakaharap. And yung tanong kung magpo-prosper, well, to my mind, as a practicing lawyer, siyempre, hindi na naisin ng mga nag-initiate ng investigation na marinig ito sapagkat hindi magandang pakinggan. Ako naniniwala ako na hindi magpa-prosper yung criminal prosecution against ES Recto.
Because nga, tumatalima siya doon sa parang yung sinabi po ninyo kanina na there's a special provision, di ba po, doon sa, tama po ba yan, appropriations? Oo. Sa GAA.
Sa GAA.
Doon niya binasa yung paglipat ng pera.
Doon niya binasa yan ang paglipat ng pera. So in other words, he acted in good faith.
But in the future, ano po gagawin natin para po hindi na po maulit ito? Should there be a new form of management or process, of course, sa PhilHealth and other agencies of the government?
Well, we might as well ask Congress not to make that kind of insertion or special provision. Kasi sa kanila nag-originate yun eh. Ang executive naman tumatanggap lang eh ng kung ano ang inilalagay ng mga congressman, senator doon sa batas.
Okay. So yung pera po na kinuha sa PhilHealth, dinala sa National Treasury, tapos nilagay sa unprogrammed appropriation, ginamit din po ito sa sa health sector, di ba po? Pero eventually may ibang portion doon sa infrastructure.
Merong portion doon na ginamit sa infrastructure, meron yata ang portion ng PhilHealth. Pero doon sa mga bagay na yon na sinasabi nga doon sa decision ng Supreme Court doon sa DAP case na those are effects. Yun ay parang resulta na ng ginawa nung government official in good faith based on a law which was valid nung kanyang gawin but which was declared later on to be unconstitutional. But the Supreme Court recognized the effects ng ginawang yun. So hindi invalidate sa Supreme Court yung pinagpuntahan nung pera kung saan man napupunta yun sapagkat yun ay effects ng ginawa ng officer.
Oo. So, kumbaga in layman's term, attorney, no, para mas maintindihan ng viewers din natin, kung nangyari sa isang household, binigyan ng pera, ng budget ang nanay, yung pambayad supposedly ng nanay sa kuryente, kinuha niya muna, pinambayad niya sa tubig, parang ganon. O she acted on good faith na ununa ko muna, pero dun pa rin naman sa household yung pambayad. Parang ganon po ba?
Tama yung sinabi mo.
Para po mas maintindihan ng ating mga kababayan. But on that note, maraming salamat po sa inyong explanation, sa inyong insights. And we do hope to invite you again on other matters. Maraming salamat po sa inyong oras.
Very much, Willie. Thank you very much.
Opo, Attorney Vicente Hoyas, former President of the Integrated Bar of the Philippines.
All right, the House and the Senate have ratified the Bicameral Conference Committee report on the 2026 national budget though several lawmakers expressed some reservations. Here is our report.
I move that we ratify the said Conference Committee report.
All those in favor of the Conference Committee report say aye.
Aye.
All those against say nay.
Mr. Speaker.
The ayes have it. The said Conference Committee report is ratified.
In just 42 seconds, the House of Representatives ratified the Bicameral Conference Committee report on the 2026 national budget, following a voice vote during the plenary session. House leaders moved to ratify the report, and despite objections raised by some minority lawmakers, the 6.7 trillion budget for 2026 was approved after the majority voted in favor. Minority lawmakers opposed the swift ratification, saying they were unable to interject during the voting.
Bakit ang tigas ng ulo? Di ba? Bakit di lang tanggalin? Kung hindi ibibito ni Presidente yung unprogrammed funds, at aaprobahan niya ito, idadali natin sa Korte Suprema.
At hindi rin totoo na pork-free ang budget na ito. Totoo, binawasan ang pork sa DPWH pero nilipat naman sa iba.
House Appropriation Committee Chairperson Representative Mika Swansing maintained that there is no pork barrel in the 2026 General Appropriations Act.
Wala pong pork barrel sa 2026 GAA at makikita nyo po na meron pang safeguard na inilagay tayo, which again is that prohibition on political involvement in the distribution of cash and other financial aid.
Swansing added that she is confident that President will not veto any portion of the budget. The proposed 2026 national budget has also cleared the Senate, although not all senators voted in favor of the bicameral report. Senator Rodante Marcoleta and Robin Padilla voted against the measure. Marcoleta said he does not agree with the continued funding of the government cash assistance programs. Padilla, meanwhile, said there are unclear provisions in the aid programs and noted that the national budget remains too Manila-centric. Other senators supported the ratification but expressed reservations.
Kung ang nais po natin ay ang lubusang pagsasaayos ng ating healthcare system, dapat po nating ituring na ang MAIPIF ay bilang first aid lamang.
My reservations arise from the national government's continued failure to remit PhilHealth's actual legally mandated sin tax revenues from year 2023 onwards and statutory shares from PCSO and PAGCOR since 2019.
Senate Finance Committee Chair Senator Win Gatchalian assured the public that the budget, including the unprogrammed funds, will not lead to corruption. He stressed that politicians are now prohibited from intervening in the distribution of government cash aid to prevent political patronage. President Bongbong Marcos is expected to sign the 2026 national budget in the first week of January.
Don't go away because we're not done yet. Please stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching News and Views here on One News.
The Department of Health reported 125 firecracker-related injuries nationwide ahead of the New Year 2026 celebrations. DOH spokesperson Assistant Secretary Albert Domingo said the figure recorded from December 21 to 29 is 27% lower than 171 cases reported during the same period of 2024. Most injuries were reported in the National Capital Region with 57 cases, followed by Ilocos Region with 12 and Central Luzon with 11, with boys aged 5 to 14 accounting for the majority of victims. The leading causes of injuries included 5-star unknown types, boga, quitis, whistle bomb, and unlabeled or imported firecrackers. In an interview with One Balita Pilipinas, Health Secretary Ted Herbosa reminded the public that children should never handle fireworks, whether legal or illegal.
Legal man o illegal, hindi dapat hayaan ng kabataan maglaro ng paputok. Hindi laruan ang paputok, lalo na yung quitis, yung boga, yung 5-star, ang lalakas na paputok niyan. At yung cases na nakita ko, may bata na walan ng hintuturo at hinlalaki. Huwag din hayaan yung mga lasing na magpaputok. Kasi kung uminom at hahawak ng paputok, no din yan. And of course, manood na lang tayo ng community-organized fireworks display.
Shoppers continue to flock to Quiapo to buy essentials for the New Year celebrations. And for updates, we have mobile journalist Evan Tarinque. Evan! Ano ba bestseller natin, Evan, dyan sa Quiapo?
Yes, Diego, no? Simula nga kanina, tuloy-tuloy na siguro ang mga shoppers dito sa Quiapo. And syempre, since mag-New Year, karamihan, yung hinahanap ng ilang mamimili dito, yung mga bilog na prutas. Dito nga sa likuran ko, ikot po kayo sa gilid para lang mapakita natin yung current situation. Dito sa kinakatayuan ko banda, no, makikita natin, may kaliwat kanan yung mga customers na bumibili ng mga bilog na prutas. Pero dito makikita natin, dito makakabili ka ng 20 pesos na 1/4 na chico, merong 250 pesos na dragon fruit. Tapos yung persimmon naman, makakabili ka ng 100 pesos yung isang tumpok. So sa isang tumpok, nasa 3 or 4 yung piraso niyan. Yung sa lemon naman, medyo mas mura, nasa 60 pesos. Yung 4 na piraso or 3 pirasong lemon. Yung apple naman makakabili ng 4 na piraso for 100 pesos. Yung sa peras naman, nasa 3 pieces for 100 pesos. No? So, pati naman dito sa may kabilang side na to, no, Diego, pag nilakad natin ng konti, may kita talaga natin, talagang yung mga tao dito, hindi na rin halos mahulugan nga ng karayom. Ito may kita natin. Yan, may kita natin yung may mga talagang namimili nung kanilang mga ipangahanda o yung mga kanilang 12 na pampaswerteng mga prutas, no, na isasama nga nila sa medianoche. Pero bukod dyan, Diego, isa pa rin sa talagang maraming pinupunta at binibili dito sa Quiapo, yung mga kalendaryo, no, may mga religious figures kasi tayong mga nakita, mga kalendaryo na binibenta dito for 50 pesos, makakabili ka na ng kalendaryo na yan. Meron naman tayong mga ilang nakausap na nagko-customize, no, na kinakaligraphy yung mga family names, no, yung mga presyo naman yan nasa 150 pataas. So yun yung madalas na talagang pinupuntahan dito sa Quiapo, bibili ng bilog na prutas pagkatapos ng misa, at yung iba naman talagang bibili ng mga kalendaryo dahil nga paparating na yung bagong taon. Diego?
Okay. Sige, Evan, ang dami mo ng utang sa amin, ha? Una, lechon, tapos ngayon yung mga prutas. Maraming salamat sa iyong update, mobile journalist Evan Tarinque. Now, with just 2 days left before the new year, shoppers are flooding Divisoria looking for last-minute buys at bargain prices. We go live now to Mobile Journal, Fatima Baduria. Fatima, ano ba naman ang latest dyan sa inyo?
Angela, Diego, dahil New Year's Eve na bukas, maraming last-minute shoppers sa Divisoria ngayong araw, umaga pa nga lang. Nagsisibilihan na ng New Year essentials ang mga tao dito sa Tabora Street sa Divisoria. At kung makikita nyo sa likod ko, maraming nagtitinda rito ng torotot, para sa mas ligtas na pagsalubong sa bagong taon. Iba't ibang klase at kulay ang tinitinda rito. Nasa 40 to 60 pesos yung mga nakita natin turutok, no? Pero may nakita tayo yung mga mas maliliit at mas affordable, nasa 10 pesos lang. At syempre dahil magbabagong taon, may pailan-ilan na nagtitinda rito. Dito sa may likod ko ngayon, may pailan-ilan na nagtitinda ng mga paputok. Usually yung mga pailaw ang nakikita natin dito. Karamihan ang tinitinda rito yung mga lucis at yung fountain. Yung lucis, no, nasa 100 to 120 pesos at yung fountain naman ay nasa 350 yung maliliit at yung mga mas malalaki ay nasa 500 pesos. Siyempre, tulad sa Quiapo, marami ring namimili dito ng mga bilog na prutas dahil nga pinaniniwalaan na pampaswerte raw sa New Year. Yung mga mangga, mangosteen at tongka nasa 200 per kilo. Meron ding mga ubas, lanzones nasa 280 per kilo. May mga longgan 100 per tali. Mansanas, orange at peras nasa 100 per tumpok, 4 na piraso na yon. Meron din yung mga tigi-isa, no? Pakwan, 100 isa. Pineapple, 80 isa. At yung kakaiba nga na nakita ko, meron pang dragon fruit, nasa 300 per kilo naman yan. So sa ngayon, kahit maaga pa, medyo sumisikip na rito sa Divisoria, pero inaasahan natin na dadami pa yung mga mamimili dito sa Divisoria ngayon, lalo na bago mag-New Year.
Alright, thank you for that. Mobile Journal, Fatima Baduria reporting from Divisoria.
Now let's check in on the ongoing EDSA rehabilitation. Joining us with updates is mobile journalist Arles de los Santos. Arles, can you tell us how the rehabilitation work is coming along?
Angela, Diego, alam nyo, 6 na araw namin sinasagawa ang EDSA rehabilitation kung saan nga nandito tayo ngayon sa kabaan ng Rojas Boulevard. Kasama ito doon sa mga starting point nitong paulit-ulit na nanantala at talagang inaabangan na rehabilitasyon na EDSA. No, kung nakikita ninyo dito sa akin likuran, ito ay kahabaan yan ng bus lane. No? Itong bahagi na ito na buo pa, no? Pero itong may butas na sa gitna, ito ay para sa private lane sana. No? So yung dalawang linya na ito ay kasama doon sa mga inunang ayusin dito para nga dire-diretso doon, no? Sa 24 na kilometro ng kahaba ng EDSA na kailangan at dapat daw na i-rehabilitate. No? Pero ipapakita ko sa inyo, Angela at Diego, kung ano nga ba yung naging epekto nito, of course. No? Ayon sa DPWH, pinili nila yung ganitong ang araw, no? Itong 2 linggo mula Pasko hanggang bagong taon para isagawa yung rehabilitasyon. Pero ito, no, nagdudulot ito ng trapiko dito sa kahabaan ng Rojas Boulevard dahil na rin yung mga private vehicles, kabahagi na nila sa linya, yung mga provincial buses and yung mga EDSA carousel buses na ngayon nag-share sila doon. No? Kabukod pa dyan, yung MRT doon sa unahan at LRT, meron pang stoplight and then kapag kumanan ka ng konti doon na yung Baclarans. No? So ibig sabihin, Angela, talagang ilang araw na ganito nangyayari yung sitwasyon dito, traffic, at nagre-reklamo na rin yung ibang mga commuter, no, at mga motorista. At sana nga daw pinagpaliban at hindi raw holiday season. Pero ginimit naman ng MMDA, ating matatandaan, no, na ayon sa kanila, 60 to 70% ng mga residente ng Kamaynilaan ang either nasa probinsya o nasa ibang mga bansa, no, na ipinagdiriwang ang holiday season sa labas ng kanilang mga tahanan. Yan muna ang latest.
Arles, itong kung saan ka nakatayo, ito ata yung litrato na nag-viral na nagrereklamo ang mga tao na iniiwan daw na katiwangwang. Ang tanong dito, given yung how fast they are working or how slow they are working, sa tingin mo, Arles, will they be finished that phase by January, yung target nila, I think January 5?
Actually, Diego, sa ating pag-ikot dito no kanina, nakita natin na doon sa bahagi sa unahan, yung nakitang yung binobulldozer kanina, medyo mabagal yung movement niya forward. No? So mabagal yung pagtibag niya ng mga bato. And to think of it na medyo ilang oras pa or itong haba na to pa hanggang doon sa dulo, ay titibagin nila para lagyan ng asfalto. Medyo siguro, no, hindi natin masisigurado kung matatapos talaga nito on time, no? Though may ibang mga bahagi naman ng EDSA na kailangan lamang lagyan ng asfalto sa ibabaw. Though ang concern ng iba is syempre baka parang band-aid solution doon. Pag umulan, umaraw, mabilis na lalambot yung asfalto and then kakailanganin na naman i-rehabilitate sa loob ng ilang buwan, no? But DPWH is hoping, Diego, na mas mapabilis ang kanilang paggawa na 24/7, no? Mula December 24 nga ng 11 PM hanggang January 5, no? ng 4 AM dahil nga yun yung inaasahan na babalik na sa normal ang dami ng tao at mga sasakyan sa Kamaynilaan at pagbabalik na rin ng eskwela at trabaho ng ating mga kapatid.
All right, thank you for the updates, mobile journalist Arles de los Santos.
Authorities have found the missing bride-to-be whose disappearance drew national attention earlier this month. Here's the report.
Wearing sleepwear and without her eyeglasses. This is how authorities found missing bride-to-be Shera De Juan in the town of Sison, Pangasinan. With the help of the Quezon City Police, Shera was fetched by her fiancé Mark R.J. Reyes.
Highway yung dinanan mo dito? Rabon. Okay. Sorry. Kasi nga galing ka sa San Pablo.
Naglakad ka lang?
Naglakad lang po ako. Pero madaling araw ko po yung nilalakad.
Shera and Mark R.J. were supposed to get married on December 14. But on December 10, Shera told her family she was going to buy shoes in Fairview, Quezon City for the wedding, and she never came back. CCTV footage later showed Shera leaving their home and eventually boarding a bus. The entire country followed the story of the missing bride, whose disappearance sparked numerous speculations. Her fiancé was even considered a person of interest at one point. The family also offered 150,000 peso reward to anyone who could help locate Shera. After she was found, News 5 spoke with Shera's family. According to her father, Shera called her brother at around 8 p.m., saying she was alive and already in Pangasinan. Shera's mother was overwhelmed with emotion, saying they had already lost hope seeing their daughter before the new year.
Narinig ko sa kanya, sorry po talaga. Nasabi ko sa kanya, huwag kang mag-sorry. Ang mahalaga nakita ka, mahalaga bumalik ka, kaya bumalik ka na dito.
Talagang marunong talaga ang Diyos na halos gabi-gabi mula pa ng Pasko. Hindi ako nakalimot na sabi ko, sana makita ko na yung anak ko. Yung picture niya na binigay niya sa akin noong December 10, tinago ko yun. Yun ang palagi kong binabalot sa telang itim na para tuwing gabi kausapin ko ba para akong baliw. Sana ko anak, umuwi ka na.
Shera told her family that since December 10, she had been walking aimlessly. She said she didn't know where she was going, was confused, and could not understand what was happening. Eventually, she boarded a bus bound for Pangasinan. There, she continued walking until she was noticed by a motorcycle rider who found her exhausted and appearing homeless. The family immediately went to the QCPD station after being informed that a rider had seen Shera in Sison, Pangasinan. Shera is said to be brought home to their residence in Quezon City. As for the postponed wedding, the family says Shera's health and recovery will come first. They also asked the public for privacy.
And now let's check the situation at the Parañaque Integrated Terminal Exchange just 2 days before the new year. We have mobile journalist Ray Vicente with the latest updates. Ray, madami pang pasahero dyan?
Diego Angela mula Cubao kahapon, ayan, dito na tayo sa PITX kung saan makikita mo nga, Diego, maluwag na at tila back to normal na raw ngayong araw dahil ayon din sa mga teller na nakausap natin ay wala na raw fully book ngayong araw at ayun na nga back to normal na nga. Ipakita rin natin yung current situation sa kada terminal dito sa PITX. So kung makikita nyo, wala nang siksikan at nakakalakad naman na maayos yung mga tao na kumpara nung kahapon kasi Diego Angela, maliban daw nung isang linggo, kahapon daw talaga nagdagsaan yung mga tao, yung mga pamilya o yung mga tao na nais bumalik sa kanilang probinsya pagkatapos bumalik sa Maynila para sa trabaho. At dito lang medyo siksikan, Diego Angela, kasi itong papuntang Cavite ay hindi naman kailangan ng booking. So talagang pila at haba ng pasensya lang yung kinakailangan. So pakita rin natin syempre yung sitwasyon doon sa second floor kung saan yung mga bus papuntang provincial buses talaga pa norte, pati pa south, so akit lang tayo sa escalator. Ayan. So sa ngayon, marami pa raw ang bakante para sa mga nais na makauwi sa kanilang probinsya, Pero inaasahan daw talaga, Diego Angela, na January 2 to January 4 ay magsisidatingan ulit yung mga pasahero. So ngayong araw hanggang bukas, actually hanggang January 1, talaga inaasahan na back to normal daw talaga lahat. Ayan. So, ito yung current situation dito sa second floor, Angela, Diego. So, dito sa left side, yung pabigol. Tayo.
may problema tayo sa signal.
Oo.
Sige.
Pasok na sa loob eh.
Mahirap sa signal. Kahit si Evan noon, nahirapan tayo sa signal. But thank you anyway for that report, mobile journalist Ray Vicente from the PITX.
The Department of Science and Technology has unveiled a new locally developed school chair designed to double as a bed for disaster evacuees. Mobile Journal Jas Paredes with the report.
The DOST Forest Products Research and Development Institute unveils a new innovation of school chairs. Different from the usual chairs with an armrest, its new development called Silyang Pinoy aims to be a multifunctional furniture that can be easily transformed into a bed.
The schools, public schools particularly, are being used as evacuation centers in times of disasters. So yun yung main inspiration natin. And making it multifunctional would make it more conducive for our evacuees na magkaroon ng mas magandang mahihigaan. Kasi itong Silyang Pinoy can be transformed from a school desk and chair into a bed frame.
The development is also in compliance with Executive Order 879 of 2010, which created the Philippine Bamboo Industry Development Project. It mandates the use of bamboo for at least 25% of the desks and other furniture requirements of public elementary and secondary schools. It has been established that the planting and use of bamboo will significantly contribute to the mitigation of climate change and disaster management. In connection with the Silyang Pinoy, the project aimed to enhance bamboo usage.
Pansin natin, ang main feature ng Silyang Pinoy is made of engineered bamboo, plus the traditional furniture materials being used. So, yun ang ating inspiration.
The project was carefully made into consideration and developed with years of testing.
The project has a duration of 2 years. And so, within that duration, we have produced prototypes and tested and made acceptance tests to the different schools. So, kasama yun sa project para we make sure that comfortable din yung ating gagamit ng Silyang Pinoy.
The Silyang Pinoy has been donated to several provinces for testing, such as Camiguin, Puerto Princesa, and Apayao public schools. Prototypes have also been distributed to the DOST Daycare Center in Bicutan. A prototype is also available at DOST Taguig for viewing.
We didn't have any negative feedback about our Silyang Pinoy, but we continued testing and developing the Silyang Pinoy.
Talks with the Department of Education to integrate the Silyang Pinoy in schools are also rolling, with plans to pilot the project in NCR and in Region 4A. The DOST FPRDI is also planning to develop multifunctional desks for teachers in the future.
Yung mga buildings also made of bamboo. And for example, we have developed a jointing system for bamboo poles. Actually, we had a prototype of this jointing system through a waiting shed, which we donated in Lawag City during the National Science and Technology Week in December.
Kapatid Jas Paredes, we are One News.
This is good to take a step forward into adapting to mga disaster. Di ba like they're also trying to develop mga tents daw na that will be nakakayanin niya yung lakas ng hangin or tubig at the same time may pores daw para yung air nag-go through para hindi siya nainitan daw yung may evacuate.
Ako naman, I never doubted yung galing ng mga Pilipino pagdating sa mga
Inventors?
invention.
Oo.
Diba? Ang nagiging problema lang dito is yung funding. Kaya minsan, napipilitan silang ibigay sa iba because walang suporta ng gagaling sa government. So, dapat yun yung mas palakasin nila. And more importantly, while we commend yung ginawa nila dito dahil for disaster, pwede siya maging bed, diba? Pero as much as possible, we don't want nga na ang mga classroom ay ginagawang evacuation center. Diba?
All right, the cast of Manila's Finest continues their mall tour on day 5 of the Metro Manila Film Festival. They visited SM Grand Central, SM Caloocan, and SM North EDSA, where they also held a ticket-selling event. Rica Paralejo said it was her first time joining a mall tour and stressed the importance of supporting the film, especially as a mother. The MMFF entries, including Manila's Finest, are showing in cinemas nationwide until January 14.
Ang lalim niya in the sense na yung pelikula hindi siya nagbibigay ng direksyon na ito ang tamang gawin or wala siyang direct na moral of the story. Pero instead, what it gives us is a glimpse or a picture of reality. This is something that happened before, still happening until today, di ba? Sadly.
And all right, and that wraps up today's episode of News and Views.
Sa mga hindi pa nanonood ng Manila's Finest, manood na po kayo. Join us again tomorrow. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
And I'm Angelo Castro III, kapatid. We are One News.
2 days na lang. See you next year na. All sides, all the time.